All right, we're back. Chris Mannix, Sergio Mora, he's the fighter. I'm the writer. On the road again this week as I finish up my basketball duties. We'll be back in studio together in LA next week, Sergio, which means you will finally have to get back to putting pants on to do this show.
Yeah, no, you know what? You're right. I'm wearing shorts now. I mean, I'll show you if you want.
No, we're
Normally,
good.
I'm in my underwear, I'm in my pajamas, or I'm in stinky shorts that my dog likes.
You got a hard life. I got to tell you that. It's tough being you, golfing 4 days a week, having 6 hours off during the day. It's tough. It's tough being Sergio Mora.
Don't forget the gym. Hey, listen, man, once those kids get out of school, the real work begins. You'll find out soon. So, no, it's a lot of work. So, you're going to be in pajamas pretty soon, too, Mannix. Pajamas, shorts, and stinky underwear.
By the way, saw you quoted in a boxing scene story. You're doing boxing scene interviews now? You're giving interviews on Keyshawn Davis. Sergio Mora blasts Keyshawn Davis?
Only for certain writers that I respect. So if you ask to quote me,
okay,
off it. But yeah, certain writers. Corey Erdman actually called me for a quote. But yeah, I got a handful of certain writers esteemed writers that I admire. I like reading them. So when they ask to quote or do an article, I'm on board.
All right, well, I'm sorry I can't be on that list. All right, on this episode, we're going to talk about Jaime Munguia having his B sample testing positive, second straight positive test for Jaime Munguia. The Canelo Crawford press tour is going to begin on Friday over in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. We're also going to talk about George Kambosos, where he goes from here after a knockout loss to Richardson Hitchens. But I want to start, Sergio, with some news that broke on Wednesday night, and that was Boots Ennis taking to social media to announce that he is done at 147 pounds. Boots Ennis unified the welterweight division with a win over Amanta Stanionis in his last fight. Now, it seems like he has his sights set for the junior middleweight division. So let's start here. Do you think this is the right decision for Boots Ennis to move up to 54?
Yeah, because he's been struggling to make 147, and we don't want to see any bad performances at 147, or we don't want the weight blamed anytime he doesn't get the knockout. You know, he had some tough fights against Karen Chukadzian. I don't know if it was a weight, or we have to give credit to Karen Chukadzian. Either way, he's a big guy, and we've seen it in his last fight with Stanionis after he rehydrated. He looked like a beast. He looked big. He looked bigger than a 154-pounder, actually. So he's going to fit in perfectly at 154. And I should know, I won a championship at junior middleweight. I watched him and I'm like, wow, he's tall. He has a long frame, very muscular. And of course, he could fight his butt off. He's going to fit in perfectly at junior middleweight.
Look, he did what he set out to accomplish at welterweight. He didn't move up last year, didn't take the fight against Virgil Ortiz, took a lot of criticism for that. But he said he wanted to win a title outright in the ring, and he said he wanted to unify the division. He did that. He had the best performance of his career, I thought, against Amanta Stanionis. He became the unified champion in that fight. Would I have liked to have seen him gone for undisputed? Sure, in a vacuum, I would have liked to have seen that, but that would have been difficult given the landscape. We know Manny Pacquiao and Mario Barrios are going to fight for one version of the welterweight title in July. Brian Norman had one of the biggest bag drops that I can recall in not taking the fight with Boots Ennis. Multiple times, Brian Norman had opportunities to take a fight against Boots Ennis. Didn't do it, so sorry, Brian Norman. You're kind of out of luck. I think he accomplished everything he could accomplish at 147. To your point, he is a big guy. Going up to 154 should not be a major problem for him. His size should carry up. His power should carry up. He should still be still have speed, still be skillful. I think he's making the right move at the right time. And going up as a unified champion at 147, that's going to give him some cachet as he begins his journey in this new division. Now, we both know that 154 is arguably the deepest division in all of boxing. 1 through 10, 1 through 12, 1 through 15, it is loaded with talent at 154 pounds. I don't expect Boots Ennis to challenge for a title in his very first fight. I think he's going to try to get his feet wet against a good guy at 154 pounds and then go from there. So who would you like to see Boots face in his first fight at junior middle?
I think he could send a big message to the whole junior middleweight division if he goes for a fighter in Israel Madrimov, a guy that almost beat Virgil Ortiz Jr. 115, 113 on two judges' scorecards and had a really good performance and gave Bud Crawford a handful where two judges had it the same 115, 113. I think if he can move up and actually beat and even stop a fighter like Madrimov that no one stopped before, he could send a message and all eyes will be on him. It'll be something difficult to do, but Madrimov has way better feet than most junior middleweights, and he has the experience, the Olympic background. He has the power, and now it's a must-win with back-to-back losses. I mean, there were close losses, but still, you have back-to-back L's on your record. So I think Madrimov makes a lot of sense for a lot of reasons. For a fighter like Boots, that he'll fight anyone, anywhere. Not only that, but there was a lot of talk about Boots one day fighting Bud. I mean, this is the closest you're going to get is by making a statement against a guy that Bud couldn't really handle all that significantly. If you can knock out Madrimov, send a message to everyone, including Bud.
All right. Well, that is predictably a terrible first opponent for Boots Ennis. Madrimov is just the wrong style to make your debut at 154. Madrimov is challenging. And I'm not even gonna say the word tough. He's challenging. Like that herky-jerky in and out style. It's tough to figure him out. And right now, because he's got those back-to-back losses, he is the definition of high risk, low reward. I don't see the upside of Boots Ennis going in against a guy like Madrimov. It's too complicated to fight someone like that.
So why don't you impress me with a name, Mr. Chris Mannix,
I can do that.
Expert matchmaker. Tell me who he should fight next.
I've got it for you. It's also a guy Virgil Ortiz has faced. And that's Sergey Bohachuk. Sergey Bohachuk would be my pick for Boots Ennis. I don't know what you're laughing at. Sergey Bohachuk is coming up.
It's not a major difference. I mean, they're both dangerous.
Oh, it's a huge, but they're different. They're different for very different reasons. Like Bohachuk is going to be in your face all night long. Bohachuk's not going to run. Bohachuk's not going to move. Bohachuk is going to throw punches. There's danger to it. I'll give you that. He knocked down Virgil a couple of times in a very competitive fight, but he lost that fight. He's bounced back with a couple of wins. I was at his last fight when he fought Michael Fox. Michael Fox just ran the entire time. Couldn't look good in a fight like that. Won a wide decision. I think if you're Boots Ennis, you go up to 54, you don't want a guy that's going to try to outmaneuver you for a win. You want to test your feet, test your strength, test your skills against the guy that's going to be right there. And Bohachuk is right there. Every single fight Sergey Bohachuk is in is a good one. Every single one. Even the ones he loses. So that to me would be a much better option for Boots Ennis.
Hey, while we're at it, why don't we do the perfect trifecta of bad matchmaking and dig out Bakran Murtazaliev? I mean, while we're at it, Bohachuk, Murtazaliev, Madrimov, hey, pick any of these guys. They're all going to be dangerous, but you said it, down the junior middleweight list, you're not going to have an easy fight. You're going to start looking at Sebastian Fundora, 6'6" southpaw.
No.
You're looking at a lot of guys that are very difficult opponents for either it's going to be the footwork, the height, the power, or all three combined. All right, so look, Boots is moving up. And he's going to have a hard time looking and shining. But if he wants to make a statement to the biggest names in the division, in his division, even at 154, go against a guy that the best in Bud and a highly ranked guy that's knocking out everyone. Virgil couldn't stop and beat convincingly.
Well, but he didn't win those fights. Like, he lost. Like,
No,
even though the Crawford fight was close, nobody thought that he won. The Virgil Ortiz fight was close. Nobody really thought he won. He lost those fights clean. So why would you want to take on a guy that is coming off a 2-fight losing streak as opposed who's, again, very tricky? I think that needs to be taken into account here. Like, this guy's tricky. He's going to be moving in and out, moving around the ring. If I'm Boots Ennis, I don't want to go hunting that guy down and try to find him. That doesn't work for him. Why not take out the guy that dropped Virgil a couple of times in their fight, that has won 2 fights in a row, that is going to be there and give you a great television fight? Like, if you're Boots Ennis, this first fight at junior middleweight, you want it to be a springboard to something else. Bohachuk would be that springboard. Like, it's tough. Certainly have a chance of losing. Bohachuk is a career-long junior middleweight. He's big. He's strong. He's got a lot going for him. But if you want to look good in your first fight in a new weight class, that's the guy you fight. Not the guy that's moving all the way around. Not Bakram Mutsalayev, who is, he's a world champion. I don't think you want to take him on your first fight. Like, take on Sergey Boachuk, and if you win convincingly there, you can face anybody in that division.
Anytime you mention Bakram Murtazaliev, I get chills in my neck, man. It's just
because you don't pronounce his name correctly. That's why.
No, because he's dangerous, and I can't believe what he did to Fundora. No. But listen, all these fights are going to generate interest. All these fights are going to be great. They're all going to be tough fights. He's not going to have an easy fight at 154. He wanted to unify 147. He did. He outgrew it. The best advice for me was, when you have all these killers at 154, why the hell are you going to leave a weight division where you're dominating? You're the number one guy. Let's continue being the top dog in a division where you can become undisputed. But his height, his size wouldn't allow that. He had to move up. Now he has other monsters to face, and it's going to be very difficult for him to win a championship there and to unify one day too.
It's going to be difficult, but I don't think it's as difficult to do it as it would be to do it at 47. If Barrios beats Pacquiao, I don't believe Barrios would be looking to fight Boots Ennis. I sure know Pacquiao wouldn't be looking to fight Boots Ennis. And Brian Norman had his chances, multiple chances to do a fight with Boots that would have been big in Philadelphia. He elected not to do it. I think go to 54. We'll see what happens in the Fundora Zoo rematch. Bakram is still going to be out there for him to fight. I think there's a chance for him to become a title holder quickly, unified quickly. He's got the promoter behind him. He's got a city that will buy tickets to watch him fight behind him. I don't think it's going to be as tricky as you might think to become unified and maybe even undisputed at 154 pounds. All right, let's talk about the former champion at 154, and that is Jaime Munguia, who is in a world of trouble these days. The B sample for Jaime Munguia's blood test urine test going into the fight against Bruno Saras, that tested positive this week. No surprise there. The A sample already tested positive for testosterone metabolites. The B sample almost always tests positive as well. Munguia has released another statement saying largely the same things, that he doesn't know how it got into his system, and he's willing to do whatever it takes to prove that he is a clean athlete. So now that we have some clarity here, Sergio, and we know that the British Boxing Board of Control is going to have a say in all this, it goes without saying that the fight against Bruno Saras should at very least be turned into a no contest. But what's the proper punishment for Jaime Munguia, who has never tested positive for a banned substance before, fought a lot of times, but did test positive here for something that's very hard to prove that got into your system? What is the right punishment for Jaime Munguia?
Well, it's not going to be a suspension alone, because suspensions don't cut it. Whether it's a year suspension or a 2-year suspension from the time that he popped, it sounds like a long time, and it is a long time. But when you're 27 years old, I believe Munguia is 28 at most, you've made a lot of money. You can wait. You stay in the gym, you can wait. I think it takes more than a suspension. So overturn the decision to a no contest. Start off with that. Then you got to fine him. That's where it's going to hurt, Mannix. You got to suspend him for a year and fine any PED drug cheat. Anyone that failed by accident or failed on purpose, no one's ever going to admit it. Any failed drug test, you got to hit him where it hurts. That's the pocket, man. And a 10% fine ain't going to do it. A 25% fine ain't going to do it. When these guys are making $5-10 million a fight, Munguia's in that range now, especially when he fights Canelo and the big dogs. So I think if you 50% fine and a 1-year suspension, that's gonna actually do damage. It's gonna make these fighters that are thinking about taking these substances, or maybe even just taking the things that might create a failed drug test, they won't do it. They'll stick to water, vitamins, and protein shakes, just like I did for 20 years. I mean, you're not going to pop if you're doing that, but when you start getting creative with you got to try this, and then you get all these strength trainers coming out of nowhere say, hey, look, I can mix you a cocktail. I can, all these other stuff. I don't care what it is. Every fighter is going to have an excuse. No one's ever going to pop positive and say, damn, you got me. No, a cheat is a cheat, and he's going to go down swinging as a cheat. So you just got to hit him where it hurts, and that's a wallet, man. You find them for a year. That way they can't fight, and you hit them good. Half your paycheck. That's how you get them.
I mean, it sounds like you're describing the penalty that the New York State Athletic Commission leveled against Ryan Garcia. I mean, the commission in New York gave Ryan Garcia a 1-year suspension, and Ryan, I believe, had to fork over $1 million.
It was more, I think. I think it was more in the $2 million
Well,
range.
no, I think it was $1 million he had to give back to Golden Boy. Then there was some money that he had to pay Devin Haney as a result of the missed weight. It was a substantial amount of money that Ryan Garcia lost because of that positive test. I mean, and look, I agree with you. I think that a suspension is certainly warranted. First offense, 1 year would work for me, and then some kind of financial penalty. I think you'd be surprised, Sergio. I don't think Jaime Munguia is as well off as you think he is. Like Jaime Munguia has had, for most of Jaime Munguia's career, he's had 2 promoters. Right? He's had Golden Boy and Fernando Beltran, and he's had Top Rank and Fernando Beltran. You know these contracts better than I do, but these promoters ain't working for free. Man, these promoters are taking a big cut on these paychecks. And I always thought it was interesting just how busy Jaime Munguia was. How many times he fought. He fought all the time. Like he was doing title defenses and non-title fights. He was just constantly active. So I don't know if Jaime Munguia's got generational wealth or the kind of money that like Canelo has or somebody of...
No, not like that. But I think he made over 10 million easily. And say they took half that money. 4 or 5 million stretches a long way into...
Hey, not always. Not always.
Right.
Doesn't always stretch a long way. How far did you stretch your $1 million check?
Oh, it was gone. Caesar Palace Roulette took that the first year. But I really sincerely think that Jaime Munguia still has a lot of money in the bank because he's not one of these guys that gets in trouble outside of the ring. He doesn't have bad habits. He doesn't have kids from different relationships. Yes, he has 2 promoters. I'm pretty sure they have a percentage that they already have intact. And yes, he has the people that he has to pay, the coaches, and it's expensive. Every fighter has that. But whenever you live in a certain part of the country where the cost of living is not that expensive, you can stretch your money, man. Think about Deontay Wilder in Alabama. That type of stretching.
Wilder made way more money than...
I didn't talk about the money. I'm just talking about how far and how you can stretch that money in certain parts of the world. I don't think that's the case. I don't think that's the case for Munguia unless he starts fighting into his mid 30s and late 30s and maybe even early 40s. That's when you start being highly concerned and realizing, like, what the hell are you doing, man? Especially if you've been getting hurt and knocked out in fights.
Yeah. One thing I would say about a potential punishment, I would like that punishment to come with rules against fighting in Mexico. Like, if Munguia is suspended by the British Boxing Board, the U.S. is not going to sanction him to fight. European countries are mostly not going to sanction him to fight. Canada is not going to sanction him to fight. Mexico would. There really isn't, guys do that in Mexico. If you're suspended by a sanctioning body, you can go down there, go down to Central America and do fights. This came up with the Ryan Garcia stuff. When Ryan Garcia was going to do an exhibition in Japan, people were kind of outraged by that because they thought Ryan was skirting the suspension. A punishment has to be a punishment. If Jaime Munguia goes out and fights 2 times in Mexico over the next 12 months, that's not facing a punishment. I would like the British Boxing Board to say to him, if they do wind up suspending, saying, look, it's a 1-year suspension, don't fight. Because if you do fight, that suspension's going to be, it's going to go back into place. It's going to be a year from your last fight. We're not going to lift the suspension until you actually serve a 1-year suspension. That would be the only thing I would add to that.
I'll add one more thing to it. This you probably haven't heard of. I just thought about it right now when I was not paying attention.
I can't wait for this.
Bruno Serras lost his last fight against him. He's going to have to climb the ranks and pay as well. I think anytime a fighter wins a fight and he pops positive for PD, he has to pay a percentage to the guy he just beat. Because I think he just, he set that career back 2-3 steps, not only in pay, but in opportunities. You have to climb your way back. This is a sport where one loss sets you back. That's the reason fighters don't like to lose. They want to keep that undefeated record. I say it all the time. You keep that 0, then you can demand more zeros on your bank account. That's just the way it is. Bruno Serras came into this with a great record, knocked out Jaime Munguia, got Fighter of the Year. lose this time in Mugia by decision, then this guy pops a positive for a PD. He needs some compensation as well because that's not fair. So I think those three things will stop a lot of these cheaters or a lot of these so-called cheaters or a lot of these liars from doing what got him busted.
Not only that, like, doesn't he have to fight Bruno Saras again? Like, this loss is going to get wiped off the record. Bruno Saras is going to be undefeated again. Munguia won in the ring that night in Saudi Arabia, but if you're Bruno Saras, like, you want another go at it, just the same way Devin Haney won another go at Ryan Garcia. I mean, I think whenever Jaime Munguia comes back, he's got to come back against Bruno Saras, doesn't he?
No, I think that train has left the station, and that's
why Bruno beat him. Bruno officially the only thing that's on the record is a knockout loss.
He lost the second fight.
He didn't though. He lost to a guy that was on a performance enhancer.
Yeah, but does it demand a trilogy? That's all I'm saying. There has to be some kind of demand by the fans. I mean, I'm a fighter. I called that second fight. There's no interest in a trilogy for me. Trilogies have to have some kind of drama. And I'm not talking about cheating drama. They have to have some kind of, okay, you won the first fight, he won the second fight, or something about the knockdowns or whatever the case is. You got to earn the rematch, and you definitely got to have a story for a trilogy. So I just think the Bruno train has left the station. Jaime Munguia needs to pay his fine, service suspension. And then when he does come back, he has to fight a name, because he's going to be embarrassed. He's going to have to prove himself, and he's going to have to gain a lot of respect back from the fans.
Look, I'm not saying that the rematch with Bruno Saras was thrilling. And certainly if this positive test didn't come up, nobody would be clamoring for a rubber match. It's like Ruiz versus Joshua. After Ruiz looked awful in the rematch, no one was out there saying we got to see a third. At the same time, it officially, whenever this gets changed, will not have happened. Like, Munguia will still have that loss on his resume to Saras. And I think, frankly, a third fight might have a little bit of juice in the buildup. It might have some energy in the buildup because Bruno Saras has already made some statements. He's already been ticked off that he fought a guy that was on a banned substance. I think you could probably sell that in Southern California or Texas or somewhere between these two guys. Hell, do it in France. Go to France.
There you go. That's what I was going to say. If you insist on this fight happening, then it can't be in a Mexican populated area. It can't be in Southern California or Mexico. It has to go with France. You give that man the homecoming, and then that makes sense for everybody.
Well, you can't call that fight because we cannot have you running around Paris as a DAZN employee. That wouldn't.
No, I can't. And if you ever take any type of blood work, you're going to test positive for being negative.
All right. I don't know how to segue out of that, but we're going to try. On Friday, we are going to get the first press conference to promote the Canelo Alvarez, Terrence Crawford, undisputed super middleweight championship fight. That fight is set for September. It is going to be at Allegiant Stadium. That was revealed this week live on Netflix. We found that out last week. And in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, these two guys are going to stand face to face and look each other in the eye for the first time since Canelo and Crawford did it in the ring, back earlier in May. I think a lot about this fight, Sergio, part because people ask me all the time about it. It's an incredibly marketable fight, and it's going to get a lot of mainstream interest, more so because it's on Netflix and it'll have that fire hose at its disposal. But whenever people ask me about the fight, like I kind of go back to Crawford's ability to land power shots. And I'll give my take on this in a minute, but like when you think about this fight, what does Crawford have to do to earn a victory here? What are some of the things that Crawford needs to do moving up 2 weight classes and fighting a generational great in Canelo Alvarez?
This is an easy question. He needs to hurt Canelo. And he can't hurt Canelo. He has to get Canelo's respect. He has to have some kind of size, some kind of power. And it takes more than just accuracy and length and just being Bud Crawford to hurt a guy that has 67 professional fights, has never been dropped as a professional, has that Mexican granite chin, and has gone all the way to 175 against a Crusher Kovalev who couldn't intimidate him. So Bud has a lot of mountains to climb to actually hit the peak in this fight. He's not going to do it that way. So hurt Canelo, I don't think it happens. So you think you're going to have to outbox him for 12 rounds and fight a perfect fight if you're Crawford. But if you're not hurting him and if you're not getting the respect, Canelo will mow you down and track you down. That's just the way Canelo fights. And with that cutting off the ring and being able to take a fight, having the experience, you're going to have to hurt the man. If you can't hurt him, It's not looking good for Crawford.
I agree with you. I completely agree with you on that one. And hurting you means throwing power shots, right? Like Crawford's got a good jab, but power shots is how you hurt your opponent. And if I look at the last two fights, as Crawford has moved up in weight, the power shots have diminished. Now, he's only been one fight above 154, but above 147. But I want to read you some of these power shots from his last two fights per CompuBox. Against Errol Spence Jr., he landed 98 power punches, a 60% connect rate in 8+ rounds. Remarkable performance, career-defining performance by Bud Crawford. In his next fight against Israel Madrimov, he landed just 55 power shots over 12 rounds. That was a connect rate in that fight at 26%. So I look at those numbers, and I don't know how you can extrapolate from that Bud is going to go up 2 weight classes and all of a sudden look like the guy we saw against Errol Spence as opposed to the one that we saw against Israel Madrimov. I think he's going to be tentative in this fight. I don't think he's going to run because Bud Crawford's not a runner and he didn't run against Madrimov. But I don't think he's going to let his hands go, be as explosive, be as aggressive as he was against Errol Spence. So that's why I'm always, I'm sure, Bud and Bomac, they're going to have a great game plan. They're really smart boxing people. But to beat Canelo Alvarez, and I say this all the time, but to beat Canelo Alvarez, you got to throw right hands. You got to throw power shots. You can't jab your way to success against Canelo. It has literally never been done. I don't know how he does it. Based on what we saw against Madrimov and those numbers I just read you, it's hard to see him just kind of letting his hands go and being as aggressive at 168 pounds as he was at 147.
Your fascination with power has always intrigued me for years and years and years. Crawford gets knocked out. Well, he doesn't get knocked out. He gets beat convincingly if he goes looking for power shots because, as I tell you all the time, whenever you're focusing on power, whenever you're trying to channel power, whenever you're looking for the big punches, you're also vulnerable to power. So the harder you punch, if you get countered, you're gonna meet him halfway with power. Canelo's explosive. Canelo's bigger. Canelo's a more experienced fighter at that weight division. He's faced the bigger, stronger fighters. This guy had a trilogy with Triple G. This guy's beaten the absolute biggest, strongest, scariest boogeyman at 160 plus. So Crawford's not gonna scare him. And power. I don't care if Bud Crawford lands the biggest shot, he's not going to hurt Canelo Alvarez. He's not going to drop him. He's not going to hurt him. But he can outbox him. He can pot shot him. He can bloody him up. He can bust him up. He can touch the body. He can do a lot of things, man. That's Bud Crawford we're talking about. That's a once-in-a-lifetime generational talent. Great fighter. He will win rounds. And I say it all the time. He's going to have his moments against Canelo where the crowd goes wild, and Canelo's not going to leave unscathed. I can promise you all that. But the power, you need to forget about that, Chris Mannix. You need to forget about power. Power is going to get Bud into trouble. Speed, technique, movement, game plan, and a lot of balls. That's what Bud Crawford's going to bring to the table to beat Canelo Alvarez. He needs to leave power at home. Well, not leave it at home, but that's going to be the last thing on his list that he should be focusing on.
But you just said, and I encourage people to rewind YouTube.
It.
You just said that he has to hurt Canelo. You just said that. He has to hurt Canelo. Okay,
well, you can't hurt fighters with speed. I've hurt a lot of fighters. I couldn't stop them. I couldn't drop them, but they wobbled. Listen, Mannix, my power gets misconstrued a lot. I'm just going to say this real quick. I hurt a lot of my opponents, a lot of them. They just didn't go down. And if they did go down, they got back up. Crawford can hurt Canelo. I mean, he can get his respect. I don't know if you're gonna see Canelo wobble, but you can see him bloodied up, busted up, maybe an eye getting a little bit swollen. You can do all that. I could see Crawford doing all that, but hurt him where Canelo takes a knee or he's against the ropes taking a punishment, or maybe getting busted up where the corner's concerned or the doctor's concerned. These are all things that could be possible, but power and going down and knockdowns, I don't see it. I don't think anybody that knows how Crawford wins this fight sees it either.
I think we're agreeing though on one thing is that it can't be a jab fest from Crawford. Like he's got to let that right hand go. And I didn't see him do it a lot against Madrimov, and I'm wondering why we should believe he's going to do it against Canelo. Yeah, Canelo is a different fighter than Madrimov. He's much more of a stationary target. Doesn't fight anymore with great head movement. I would discourage people from looking just at that Williams School fight and thinking that Canelo was taking 3 steps back. That was Williams School, who ran the entire night. The fight was at 6 o'clock in the morning local time. I think there are a lot of reasons to believe that however much Canelo has regressed, and I'm open to the debate about Canelo having regressed as a fighter, but however much he's regressed, it's not that far. Like I don't think he's a vastly diminished fighter. To beat him, you got to throw those right hands. And when you throw right hands, and you know this as a fighter, as a champion, like you're open to counter shots. And like a lot of guys don't throw right hands against Canelo because they don't want to get countered. They don't. They like, we're just going to play it safe, throw the jab. Kovalev, the light heavyweight that he fought. How many jabs did Kovalev throw in that fight? Like 1,000 over, 11 plus rounds? Caleb Plant?
They weren't even power jabs. He wasn't.
No, he's flicking it out there. Yeah. I'm like, all these guys throw jabs and they try to win that way and it never works. That's all I'm saying. I'm saying like to win this fight, Crawford's got to throw hard right hand. And he's got to throw a lot of right hands. And he's got to be willing to eat some of those shots back in return. And I think Canelo, for whatever people think about what phase he's in his career, he still hits like a mule, man. He still has got great power at that weight class. And guys at that weight who have been career-long guys at that weight. I'm talking about Callum Smith, Caleb Plant, Billy Joe Saunders was there for a long time. They didn't want any part of it. They didn't want any part of that right hand for Canelo because when they did, that's when they got hurt.
If Canelo Alvarez takes a knee or goes down against Bud Crawford, it ain't going to be a right hand to the chin. It's going to be a body shot. That's the only way I could see Canelo get hurt. Think about Gennady Golovkin, another iron chin warrior. He was never down. He never went down, but where did he get hurt? To the body against Derevyanchenko. That's how you hurt guys with the granite chin. You stop aiming at the body. You start softening them up and downstairs. Look at who we just saw in New York, George Kambosos. The 2 losses that he had were to body shots. And he's fought every big name in the book. He's gotten hit in the head. He's getting hit by slick fighters, power punchers, everything. But it was the body that put him down. So if Crawford is going to do something, zero in on that torso area, and maybe you can get lucky and actually hurt this granite chin Mexican.
That's even riskier, though. And I know you know this. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. But like when you extend that arm all the way out to the body.
Punches. Not at the straight punches. If you're dissecting them with straight punches, especially from both stances, from the orthodox stance, the jab downstairs or straight right hands, you got to keep them singles. And from the southpaw stance, straight left hand, maybe a right hook around the guard. Yes, you leave yourself exposed with the hooks they can catch and counter, but with the straight shots, nah, you're at range. You're too far to get countered.
But have you seen vulnerability from Canelo to the body in the last few years? Like, we know that Golovkin had some vulnerability there. Sergey Derevyanchenko exposed that. We know that Kovalev had some vulnerability there. Anthony Yarde exposed that. Like, we know going into fights when guys are vulnerable to body shots. I haven't seen it from Canelo in his recent fights. I haven't seen anything to suggest that he's soft in that midsection with the kind of damage that can be lasting.
I haven't seen it either. But I'm just telling you, if I'm going to put a game plan together on how to beat Canelo Alvarez, a man that's no one hurt, dropped, or gotten close to, knocking him out, well, you got to test that. You got to test that body, man. You got to test that body because these guys can take it upstairs, man. So you got to find a way. You got to find a way, man. If you're going to do something, embark in a mission that's never been done. It's never been done. We never seen Canelo hurt. You got to try to figure out something else, something new. And I think the body is the way to go if you're Bud Crawford.
I'll tell you, if you're Bud and you pull off this upset, I don't care how old Canelo is. I don't care how diminished people say that he is. This would elevate Bud to an all-time great status. Like,
all-time great status, man. Three times undisputed.
All-time great. 4 belt. I know he's doing it in one fight to get the 4 belts at 168, but a 4-belt undisputed world champion in 3 weight classes, that is an accomplishment. That is a huge, huge
not only 3 weight classes, because I say it all the time, it could be the lighter weight divisions where 3 or 5 pounds separate one class from another, but he came from 135 where 6 to 7 to 8 pounds separate weight divisions. 160 to 168 is 8 pounds. I mean, so yeah, it's a big accomplishment, and Bud can do that, and that's all-time great status. And we'll be talking to him. We'll be talking about Terrence Crawford for a long time to come.
Yeah, beginning his career at 135 and potentially finishing it at 168 would be would be something. That really would be something. Let's finish the show with a little on George Kambosos, the former undisputed champion at 135. He lost by knockout to Richardson Hitchens this past Saturday in New York. On our last show, we talked about Hitchens and where he goes from here. But Kambosos, his future is much murkier. He is what now? 3-3. I'm saying his record 3-3 in his last 6 fights, I think, or no, 2-4 in his last 6 fights. Has not looked good against top level opposition. Beaten twice by Devin Haney, knocked out by Vasily Lomachenko, and now knocked out by Richard Hitchens. He still is relatively young, 31 years old. There still is time to stay in the game, but I don't know, man. Like he does not look like a guy that's particularly strong at 140 pounds. Obviously, the body is a problem for him. Whoever he fights going forward is just going to be digging down to that body every single fight. Like once you're exposed there, it's like having a bullseye painted on your liver. It's just kind of the way it goes. What do you think he should do here, Sergio? I don't think he's going to hang him up. I also don't think he's going to I saw Adam Azim called him out. He's not fighting Adam Azim. Like that doesn't make any sense for George Kambosos. But where does he go from here? Because his record has been bad in recent fights. His popularity has certainly waned both in Australia and in New York City, in the U.S. in general. Where does he go from here?
Well, if I'm George Kambosos, I don't retire. I mean, he has made a boatload of money with one huge win. And he's kept busy, and the biggest fights he's lost. So if I'm him at 31 years old with low mileage, that's another thing. He doesn't have a lot of fights. He has about 26 fights. That's low mileage for a 31-year-old fighter. You still have a lot of fights left. Now, it all depends on your hunger because he's made tens of millions of dollars. So the hunger is the number one thing. George Kambosos needs to look in the mirror and figure out, okay, do I really want to take 3 steps back and go back and fight these fringe contenders, these hunger contenders to get back on the top and maybe have one more chance at a title? That's the question that he has to answer himself. And 2, he needs to really, really think about, am I doing this for the money or am I doing this for legacy? Do I want to leave on a win? Do I want to become a 2-time champion or a 2-division champion? These are all things that he needs to question himself, because when you start fighting for money, man, that's when you get in trouble. That's when you get in trouble. Every fighter will tell you that. But I don't think he should retire. I'll give you 2 quick names where George Kambosos can come right back. He has one, Guinea win, and then after that, an Arnold Barboza in the States. Not a puncher. Barboza came up short against Teofimo. Both of them still have names. That is a good fight in the States. Or I'll give you another one. Liam Paro. That could be an all Australian type fight against 2 former champions that lost against the same guy. Makes perfect sense to me. So no, I don't think he should retire. He still has a handful of fights left if strategically matchmaked and picked right.
The Paro fight makes some sense to me. Barboza, I don't know who's paying for that. Like, who's putting up the money? Nah, no way. That's like $1 million fight.
Barboza back. I could see Golden Boy paying Kambosos. Kambosos is not that hot commodity, expecting 7 figures anymore. That's another.
No, he wasn't. He didn't make 7 figures for the last fight.
There you go. So that's another thing Kambosos is going to have to do in this one. Does he really want to?
But where does that sell? Does that sell tickets anywhere? Like, I don't. I mean, outside of Australia, even Australia, I don't think that sells.
No,
any
you
tickets.
put that fight in L.A. I mean,
but Fantasy Springs, like, what do you?
Arnold Barboza has a big following in El Monte and South.
Since when? Like, he was fighting under Top Rank.
He represents El Monte, man. He represents El Monte.
I'm not diminishing that. But I'm just saying, like, you can't put it. It would be like Commerce Casino is where you have to put it. Like,
no. Fantasy Springs makes a lot of sense.
That's the same thing. It's like that might be even worse. Fantasy Springs.
Those casinos out there are nothing to sneeze at.
They're small. They're very small. They're very small,
but it feels like a good environment.
Yeah, but that's where you put you put
I fought it there, man.
You put like Gucci Mane Flores out in Fantasy Springs.
Fantasy Springs, Morongo, all those desert casinos.
After you were world champion?
Yes, to get.
Did you? All right. I'll take your word
Actually,
for it.
1-1. One before a champion and once to get back to a world championship. You have to do that, man. You have to swallow your pride. You have to go where the fights are and the opportunities are, and that's where hunger comes in. Do you really want to go back to the drawing board and take these lesser fights for lesser money just to hopefully get that one big payday opportunity again? Every fighter goes through it.
I mean, all in, that's probably like an $800,000 to $1 million fight between Kambosos and Barboza. You don't put those types of fights in Fantasy Springs. Those events are like Eric Priest and Gucci Mane Flores, and like I think Floyd Schofield might have become too big for Fantasy Springs. Like I don't think you put a fight like that in Fantasy Springs or the Commerce Casino. I don't think there's a market for it. I do think there could be a market for Liam Paro, but I think for Kambosos, the rebuild needs to be longer than one fight. I think he's going to have to swallow his pride a little bit over the next 12 to 18 months if he wants to get back to a level where he earns the payday that he's looking for. He needs 2 or 3 of these Jake Wiley types. Like
that's way too many fights. Way too many fights. A guy with his kind of money, with his kind of popularity.
Well, then he's not going to get. You're not going to make any money.
Once you can swallow your pride once, maybe once and a half. But not 3 times.
I don't know, man. I mean, but like, again, it comes back to who's paying for these fights. Like, you have to do everything possible to erase the stink from this Hitchens fight, where you lost every round and got knocked out.
This is where you go on undercards. You're not the main guy anymore. You're an undercard fighter. George Kambosos needs to understand that.
Okay, so but my question is, how many times?
With Jai Apataya going to undercard with
of course, I'm with you there. Of course that, but how many times? Like I believe he's got to do it 3 times. I believe he needs 3 reasonable wins before you can make him the main event in a real fight. And look, a Liam Paro fight, Liam Paro's in the same position. Like, he's got to rebuild as well. Like, Kambosos should be looking for Jake Wiley's brother, like Bill Wiley, and then he should be looking for Brock Jarvis, if he's still out there fighting, and like getting one of these guys that is non-threatening but has a good enough record to help you rise the rankings and have some credibility once again. So I would do that in Australia if I'm targeting a fight with Liam Paro, which Liam Paro and Brian Peters, they would be all for making that particular fight. The other guy, though, Sergio, is Teofimo, because I still think there is a market at some point for a rematch between Teofimo and Kambosos. Now, it might require Teofimo to lose his next fight, because Teofimo, if he's still on the rise, still winning, he's not going to be looking to go backwards against George Kambosos. But let's say, hypothetically, Teofimo fights Richardson Hitchens and loses to Richardson Hitchens. Well, all of a sudden, Teofimo might be looking for a good, marketable fight where he can make a couple of bucks. Hey, how about George Kambosos, who beat me at the Garden back in 2021, who has just won 3 fights in a row in Australia, figured things out at 140 pounds. Why not go that route? So I think the 2 options George has are Liam Paro and Teofimo Lopez, but I don't think he can get either of those fights until he wins 2 or 3 fights in a row.
Well, I think one gimme fight, Liam Paro, and I think he can get it on the 3rd time around. He has a hell of a manager. Me and you know that. And I think money's not going to be an issue. I just think the opportunities, the time slot, the TV slot, fight in front of a crowd on a big undercard, 2 fights should do it, man. 2 fights should do it. It took me 3 or 4 fights.
2 fights, then Paro is what you're saying?
No, I'm talking about
one fight, then Paro.
Yeah, gimme Paro, and then I think he can get another big fight.
No, Paro is a big fight. He probably doesn't win that fight. I'd probably favor Paro in that fight.
That's a medium fight, but I think it'll be a big fight in Australia. Any other place, I don't think that fight.
I don't know how big it is in Australia. I mean, like, Kambosos' ticket sales went down every single fight he was in Australia. Like, he did a great crowd against Devin Haney, a decent one for the rematch.
He's a master promoter, man.
Doesn't matter. He didn't sell many tickets in Australia. I mean, that's just I'm not digging him for this. Like, that's just a reality. Like, the ticket sales were not good for that fight against Lomachenko. They were not good. And sorry, not Lomachenko. The Jake Wiley fight. They were not good for that fight. So I don't believe that just because you pair 2 Australians with championship backgrounds that you're going to automatically sell tickets. Both those guys. I'm not just talking about George here. Like, Liam needs to rebuild as well. Both these guys, hell, put them on the same card for, a full year and build up that fight. Like, that's the only way it gets there. You just take one fight. I'm telling you, I promise you, the interest is not going to be there. And most importantly, for both these guys, the money is not going to be there. And that's really what matters to them. They both are prize fighters, and they both want to get paid. All right, go put some pants on. We will do this again in studio next week.